Welcome to another episode of This Old Hoopty, where I take this piece of crap and try and make it into something a little more pretty. I hope. Well, I had every intention of taking care of the wet sanding in my driveway, but the GoPro cameras last approximately 5 minutes before they overheat. So let's get the truck back in here and do this in the shade. I guess I'm not really going to complain about that. Be right back. All right, back in the shade. Let's let this bad boy cool down a little bit from like 180 degrees to the touch to something a little more easy to deal with. And I got to give the other GoPro a break. It power cycled off due to the heat. So I'm gonna bring it up to 220 or 320, anywhere that's still got the shine, and I'm gonna start digging into the bodywork across the entire front clip. So any rock chips, any dents, dings, etc. We're gonna start working on those today. Let's get to it. Always something fun. So to get that screw off right there, I need to take the hood off. So if it was put right here, would have been done it without taking the hood off. But I guess it was put on before the hood was put on. So let's get the hood off so I can take off the last two corners and get that cowel out, because I got some repairs to do with that. I'll see if you guys can see that. I'll show it better once it gets out in the light. But we got a big crack here and a big crack there to get to the drains so the water can run out. We're gonna fix those up a little bit. Taking the hood off by myself, and unscrew the two back screws holding the hood to the hinges, leaving the front two screws on, that way I can get to them from the outside while this is partially closed. I just wedged something to hold up the center like this, and with the center held up with something wide enough, it shouldn't wobble too much, and then I can start taking the front bolts off. Then I'll lift the hood up and put it on top of the roof. I'm quite sure there's many other ways to get this done, but this is my way to do it by myself. So here we go. So, as you can see, it's going to want to pop up because you have tension on the spring for the hinge. So once it pops up, it'll just sit right there just fine, and you can get the other side. And even if this slides, your window is protected. Just make sure whatever you use is wide enough at the front so it doesn't wobble. Once again, I'm just holding the top of the hood in the corner here. As soon as you feel the pressure on the hood, the screw's undone, and it should pop up based on the spring rate of the hinge. There we go. Pop this side of the match, and the hood floats. Now, these steel ones are kind of heavy, so you may want two people to do this. If you're strong enough, you just pick it up yourself and move it over. So you should just be able to lift it off of here. But we're going to need to get up and underneath it like this. Move this out of the way. There we go. Doing big things in small spaces. There. We'll just stick that up there temporarily. I'll make some space and I'll put it in the bed. And now we can work in here easier. We got to get this cowel off. And we had one screw on each side right here that I couldn't get to, so I had to take the hood off. I probably could have taken one side off, done the screw, taken the other and put it back on. But it is a lot easier to paint these while it's off if you're going to do the underside and everything, which I am, so pushes me in the right direction. No problem with that. Let's keep going. There we go. Let's put this in our pile of things that we're going to need to fix. Now we can clean up all this area here and get this scuffed as well. There were no hoods harmed in the making of this video, as you can see. No additional damage to the roof either. Let's keep going. So you hear that squeak. That's a, you guys hear this? You hear that squeak right there. So the whole reason why I'm actually taking these off here on both sides is because I'm going to upgrade both the bushings and the pins. There's a guy on Facebook Marketplace. I'll leave the description down below. It's Jeremy I think it's Cunningham Machine or Jeremy Cunningham Machine, and he makes a stronger version of the brass bushings that go inside these hinges here. So I'm going to be replacing these as well as those. And while I'm in here, this bushing here, or this bearing, sorry, is broken and it's at an angle. That's why it squeaks and makes those noises. So I got to take the doors off anyways. So while they're off, I'm going to paint all the insides and all the jambs and everything, get everything black so it matches the inside, because when the doors are closed, you can actually see all of this inside. So I'm going to color match the inside of the doors to the inside of the cars, because that is going to stay black. The outside, who knows? So at least the inside will match the inside of the door, so you don't see any different colors. For those of you wondering, when we're talking about things like the front window drain getting stuck, this is that drain right here. And as you can see that? All that crap stuck in there. The leaves and whatnot get into here, and then they get stuck all behind here. So you can clean them out from back. You can clean them out from back here, and they get stuck and jammed in this little plastic pipe right here, which is on both sides. This plastic pipe here collects all this garbage. You can just see it's completely full, and then it gets stuck in this little casing here, and it piles up, and eventually this is completely full with water, and that could cause some of the leaking into the cab that you see people talking about when they're not talking about a front windshield leak or a some of the leaks that come from the bad seals in the doors. But this is the one that we're talking about when we say the drain. That's the drain flap on this side, and this is the drain flap on this side, which is completely empty. The one over there on the passenger side is full. Another thing to look out for when you're taking body panels off, etc., is your shims. If you have a shim, either leave it right where it was or put it in a Ziploc bag and label it, because when you put your quarter panel back on, if you put it without the shim, it's going to drop and it's not going to line up the same way. So if everything lined up originally perfect and you have a shim there, you're going to need to put the shim back if you're using the exact same pieces. So don't lose those, label them, and put them in a Ziploc bag. That way you can put them back when the time comes. Okay, let's get the battery back in here, test that the truck still starts up, and keep moving forward. All right, I'm just going to scuff up a little space on here, hit it with a self-tapping screw, and that'll be my temporary ground for now. A little washer. little bigger. There. There. There we go. There we go. All right. This thing starts, we're solid. See what happens. Okay, if you can't tell, it's the next day, and ran into a little snag. I'm almost positive that every garage on the planet has a little gremlin or leprechaun that goes through and steals random crap from your drawers. So either that or people borrow them and you don't get them back. But I had no 18mm sockets. I was missing my 18mm for my impact gun. I was missing my deep sockets, and I'm missing my standards. So I went and I picked up all three of those, and I've added them to my drawer here, and I'm going to lock my drawers from now on. Maybe that'll help the tools stay, who knows. I have no idea where they are. Anyways, whatever. Back to the point. Let me show you what I did here. I've gone ahead and I've let everything soak in a little bit of WD-40 to loosen these up. Gave them a little tap with a mallet, try and get them a little loose. And now we're going to go ahead and use our brand new sockets to take the bumper off. So let's get this bumper off. Let me get you in the tripod. All right, let's see if we can break these loose. Oh. Get these out. Let me jack the front end up, and then I can get under there. All right, we'll make note of the fact that we had two shims here, two shims here. And the good news is I have all the clips for the plastic air dam that goes underneath here. The clips and the screws here, they're all in there. So that's a big plus, one less thing I need to get. And I have a brand new air dam right there, which will go on when I'm done painting. Okay, so I'm in sunny or rainy South Florida, and it's now mosquito o'clock, which is basically anytime after 5:30 p.m. And I've got the bumper removed. I've got my bolts out over here. I'm going to dump these in a cup of white vinegar and let them sit for about 4 days. And they should be nice and shiny and new when they're done. And also got myself some new masks. And like I said, I am almost positive that there's a gremlin that steals all the 18mm sockets, or at least whatever millimeter socket you need. In my case, it was 18. But all right, right now, the hood was taken down to 80, anywhere where I went through, where I left off, except for right here, because I just did that. Had some etching primer put on it, because I let this sit here for about a month. With this being a budget paint job, budget restoration, try and do these type of things with what you got on hand. At least that's how I do it. So I needed to get sandpaper, obviously, because I didn't have enough to do what I wanted to do. As far as how you're going to use the sandpaper, you can get this type, you can get the round type. That way you can use it on your orbital sanders, as well as on these little palm sanders that are non-electric. I got these two for, I want to say it was like $9 or $10 from Amazon, maybe 12. These are perfect. They'll do the job. You could still do any pattern you want. You could do this. You could do really whatever you need to do to get it sanded. You just need the different size sandpaper that you need. Another thing is, if you're going to be blocking, you've heard me say it probably 10 times already, but you can take this, 2 hands next to each other like this, and you can get your pattern in there and get this thing blocked down pretty easily with this sandpaper. This is very, very cheap. I think, once again, these are like $9 for 500 sheets or 800 sheets, something like that, all different sizes. So this will also work. This is a piece of garbage. It came with a server rack, and I just snapped it in half, so I have something a little more comfortable. Since I'm going to be doing a ton of this for hours and hours and hours, it's easy to do this and hold my hand against it, and all I have to do is pinch the paper here at the bottom and it'll do what it needs to do. So try and use what you have lying around. At least that's my way, like I said. And this stuff I had to buy. I didn't have any Bondo using putty to get any pinholes or what's left. This hood's actually pretty good. There's only 3 big dents right here, so I'm going to fill those, see how nice I can get them, and if I need to, I have the glazing putty already on hand. As far as mixing that stuff up, I'm not a body shop. I'm not going to be doing this all the time. This will be done a couple times, maybe 2 or 3 times, but that's over a year. So just a simple piece of cardboard. Mix up your crap, slap it on there, sand it off, throw it in the garbage, disposable. Didn't cost anything. Let's keep going. Clean. I've already mixed this up. This stuff does separate, so get yourself something like a tongue depressor or something that you can mix the separated solids and liquids, because you want it to look like that before you start using it. But you don't need a ton. Clean this lid off so it doesn't get sticky. Knead up your hardener. A little bit goes a long way with this stuff. If you use too much of this, it'll harden too fast and it'll just get all chunky while you're trying to rub it on. So this is what you want it to look like. We need to do a second coat on here. Then we're going to get the first coat on this one. Mix it up. gonna get rid of the gray and turn it all pink. There we go. No more gray. It's all pink. That's what we want. You want to make sure it's higher over the low spot. That way when you take it down, it evens with what's left. Because before this gets completely hard, we're going to shave off the big parts. This stuff is a hell of a lot easier to clean up while it's wet. So get as much off of whatever you're using if you're going to be keeping it. So while this is still soft, just scrape it off with something. I mean, these are cheap enough to be disposable, but why throw it out if you could use it 50 more times? I'm gonna let this set up for a couple minutes, and you'll see there's lumps. We're gonna just take those lumps off to make it easier to sand. Same with this here. We're gonna take those off to make it easier to sand since we're already up on the rest of the hood at 180. So you can use sandpaper, you can use 80 grit to knock it down. You can use anything sharp. You can use the spatula if you want to, whatever. Just enough to knock this off to make it soft. Cheese graters and things that I guess body shops use are probably the easiest. That's why I'm not a body shop, so I use whatever I have in the garage, and that's what works for me. You use what works for you. Look what I found. I found some big ass metal files used for stone shaping, some rasps. This will take it down real quick. That'll make it a lot easier to sand. Let's let this continue hardening up. This works. Cheese grater would definitely work better because it's got holes in it. It would just grate it. But this definitely works because it just falls right off of here. It's a nice sharp rasp. All right, in YouTube time, this went as fast as you can click that fast forward button. In reality, it's been 15 minutes. I'm going to take this down with 80 and see if I can do so without leaving any low spots in what I've got on there. Let's give it a shot. All right, we don't want to take too much off because we still need to bring it from 180 and then 220 and then 320. So this should do. Make sure it's feathered in nice around anywhere that it meets up with a line. Okay, I no longer feel any of the edges. Let's go on to this one. Okay. I left it a little on the thicker side, but you can't feel anything anymore, and the reason for that is I still have to go from 180 to 220 to 320, so I'm still going to be taking a little bit off as I go, just like the rest of the hood. But since I can no longer feel the transitions here, this should be nice and smooth. Once I prime it, you shouldn't be able to see anything. Let's get this up to 220. Okay, at this point, we're at 220. Everything is really starting to get smooth. I don't really feel anything across the front. I may have something here, but I'll find it when I put the guide coat on. Okay, we are finally up to 320 grit. I'm going to take the last bit of scratches that I can see out of here.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Have a good weekend.
You too. Okay, I'll quickly even up the front end here. Get rid of any of these scratches if I can feel them with my fingernail. We're gonna get rid of them. They're already actually gone at this. They look like they're there, but can't feel them with the fingernail. They'll probably get filled with filler. All right, that should be good. Bang out this one. Now this one, the dent was a little higher, so we got to clean up the bottom and leave this part full. All right, I can't feel anything, so now we're gonna leave it up to the guide coat to reveal whatever's left if I missed anything. So we're at 320 now. I'm gonna run a quick once over with the sandpaper across these little grooves, make sure I didn't miss anything. Then we're gonna clean it off, wax and grease remover, and guide coat it. All right, I'm gonna give about 15 minutes for all the dust that's in the air to settle. And I'm gonna take a rag, use the prep all right here. I've used Windex many times in the past, but if you can see over there, I'm out of Windex. 6 eggs. I consider this part of the project. I'm kidding, I'm not gonna make you watch me eat the eggs. Let's get back to work. Part of the fun of working in Florida, those goddamn bugs. Look at that. But that's all right. We're not gonna let him ruin the paint job. Because what's gonna happen is he's waiting for me to prime this thing so he can jump in it and screw up the primer. So that's all right. I need to get one of those things that hang from the ceiling and like zap and kill all the bugs. We're gonna order that on Amazon as soon as I get off this camera here. I'm going to order that. In the meantime, we're gonna take care of this by closing up the doors, get that one fly out of here, and get our primer on. Give me 1 second. All right, let's get a second coat of the filler primer across the front. We're gonna do one more coat of the filler primer, so we have a total of 3 across the front. Then we'll give everything just a scuff with some 400. And then it's ready to accept some primer. Most of this is 320, 400 should all be fine because when I shoot Rust-Oleum, I use 4 parts paint, 2 parts acetone, and a quarter of the hardener. So I use the paint kind of on the thicker side, so it should fill any of those scratches just fine. It builds up nice and thick. And with the cure time, once you add the hardener to it or the catalyst to it, everything just rock and rolls. If you already watched the video of me doing my furniture in my daughter's bedroom, you'll see how this sort of thing works out, because we're gonna start with a similar base once we get there, because that's gonna be the first layer. So let's keep going, getting excited. Then we've got a can of black paint. You can use anything, whatever's on sale. This happened to be a used can of flat black 2X Rust-Oleum. We're just gonna go crazy on this thing and get a little cloud coverage. We're gonna use this as our guide coat, block it off, and see if we have any more low spots across the front or if I missed anything on the hood, because there are gonna be some areas that are a really dark color, and with black or a dark color, those dents are gonna look like crap. So you can at least put in the work. It doesn't matter if it's a budget paint job or a $10,000 paint job. If you're painting it, in my opinion, it shouldn't have a ton of dents and dinks unless you really don't give a crap about it. If it's like a work truck, whatever. But for me personally, if I'm gonna put the time into doing something like this, I'm gonna put the time into taking as many of those dents out as possible. All right, that's pretty solid guide coat. We'll let this dry for an hour and a half, and we'll come back. We'll block off the whole hood, including the area where we have the filler primer, and see what we're left with. That way we can fix anything right then and there, and finally get our first coat of paint on here. All right, I've got some 400 grit wet dry sandpaper, something to block this off with, spray bottle filled with water, a rag to clean anything up. My goal is to just take off any of the black guide coat that I put on, so I can see where any of the low spots are that I couldn't see with my just with the bare eye. So I'm going to concentrate on this area where I know that I repaired 2 of the dents and 1 over here, and let's get this guide coat off. right. I don't see any low spots or high spots left here after the guide coat. Everything's smoothed out really nicely. The only place where I had issues were the rock chips and the little dents and dings across the front. And this is silky smooth now. For a budget paint job, I'd say that's about as good as I'm going to be able to get it. I'm going to quickly wash this down and dry it off. I'll put it off to the side, and as long as I don't have rain outside, which is starting to get pretty ugly in some of these areas, we'll take a look and see what we can do. Alright, this is ready for primer and paint, whichever direction we go. Hood came out fantastic. I'm going to put this off to the side, and we're going to get started on those quarter panels now. Just trying to knock off anything like peeling paint, which some of the spray paint here is peeling off. So you can see this red scuff pad from 3M really eats away at the garbage. This is what you want to use to get rid of the grease and grime. See here, this is black. Just a little pressure. It eats it right up. Like new. So a lot of the reason why you see peeling paint, whether it's Rust-Oleum, expensive paint, whatever type of paint, it really doesn't matter, is because the prep of the substrate wasn't done correctly. That goes for in your house, your car, your bicycle, your garage door, whatever. This is a perfect example of paint from a rattle can just being shot on top of a grimy panel. Basically what this person did, whoever painted the inside of this, I don't know if it was the same person that originally painted the outside, but basically they just took a rattle can and sprayed it on top of all the grease and grime, and it just comes right off. I mean, I could have scratched it with my fingernail, but it's a lot quicker obviously with one of these. So this is not really stuck down to anything. So over time, it starts flaking off. This goes for any substrate. So we got to take it down to the original paint or the paint and primer if there's any of the blue paint that's peeling, and then build that back up to give something strong for our new paint to bond with. Now, like I've said a million times in the past, I'm not an automotive painter, but I have painted tons of residential, commercial, real estate on my own properties, and I'm quite familiar with painting. So it's across the board the same thing. You don't want to paint on a dirty substrate. You want to clean it off and give yourself as good a possible bond with the paint and the primer, or the primer and the surface, so that way the paint lasts the longest. And then you're going to cover it, for automotive anyways, with a clear coat, and that gives it the protection against the sun and the elements and scratches so you can buff them out, etc. But if the bottom sucks, the top is going to suck. It doesn't matter. It'll eventually turn out like crap. So I'm going to keep on cleaning. I just figured I'd get that out there.